When describing the suffering of Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, the two young girls who were the first to display paranormal symptoms and the first to accuse others in colonial Salem of witchcraft, Reverend John Hale wrote, quote, "These children were bitten and pinched by invisible agents. Their arms, necks, and backs turned this way and that way, and returned back again, so as it was impossible for them to do of themselves, and beyond the power of any epileptic fits or natural disease to effect." End quote. The Salem witch trials occurred in colonial Massachusetts between early 1692 and mid-1693. More than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, the devil's magic. In 1692, Salem was divided into two distinct parts, Salem Town and Salem Village. Salem Village, also referred to as Salem Farms, was actually part of Salem Town but was set apart by its economy, class, and character. Residents of Salem Village were mostly poor farmers who made their living cultivating crops in the rocky terrain. Salem Town, on the other hand, was a prosperous port town at the center of trade with London. Salem Village is present-day Danvers, Massachusetts. Colonial Salem Town became what's now Salem. Most of those living in Salem Town were wealthy merchants. For many years, Salem Village tried to gain independence from Salem Town. The town, which depended on the farmers for food, determined crop prices and collected taxes from the village. Despite the 3-hour walk between the two communities, Salem Village did not have its own church and minister until 1674. Controversy brewed over the Reverend Samuel Parris, who became Salem Village's first ordained minister in 1689 and quickly gained a reputation for his rigid ways and greedy nature. His rhetoric further separated the two factions within Salem Village. The Puritan villagers believed all the quarreling was the work of the devil. In January 1692, Parris's daughter Elizabeth, otherwise known as Betty, age 9, and niece Abigail Williams, age 11, started having fits. They screamed, threw things, uttered peculiar sounds, and contorted themselves into strange positions. At the end of February, Reverend Samuel Parris called for a doctor, who was believed to be Dr. William Griggs, but he couldn't find anything wrong with the girls and determined they must be bewitched. The afflicted girls named 3 women they believed were bewitching them: Tituba, who was Reverend Parris's slave, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. The women were arrested and examined on March 1st, 1692. During Tituba's examination, she confessed that she was a witch and warned the court that there were other witches in Salem. This confession confirmed the colonists' greatest fears, that the devil had invaded the colony and sparked a mass hysteria and a massive witch hunt in Salem. After news of the witch hunt spread throughout the colony, Reverend Deodat Lawson, the previous Salem minister, returned to Salem in mid-March to find out more about the suspicious activities in the village. Lawson witnessed and published a first-hand account of one of Abigail Williams' fits in his book, a brief and true narrative of some remarkable passages relating to sundry persons afflicted by witchcraft at Salem Village. Quote, "On the 19th day of March last, I went to Salem Village and lodged at Nathaniel Ingersoll's near to the minister Mr. P.'s house. In the beginning of the evening, I went to give Mr. P. a visit. When I was there, his kinswoman, Abigail Williams, about 12 years of age, had a grievous fit. She was at first hurried with violence to and fro in the room, though Mrs. Ingersoll endeavored to hold her, sometimes making as if she would fly, stretching up her arms as high as she could and crying, 'Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh,' several times. Presently, after she said, 'There was Goodwin,' and said, 'Do you not see her? Why, there she stands,' and said Goodwin offered her the book. but she was resolved she would not take it, saying often, I won't take it. I do not know what book it is. I am sure it is none of God's book. It is the devil's book, for aught I know." After that she ran to the fire and began to throw firebrands about the house, and run against the back, as if she would run up the chimney. And, as they said, she had attempted to go into the fire in other fits. End quote. With the seeds of paranoia planted, a stream of accusations followed over the next few months. Charges against Martha Corey, a loyal member of the church at Salem Village, greatly concerned the community. If she could be a witch, then anyone could. On May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips ordered the establishment of a special court for Suffolk, Essex, and Middlesex counties. The first accused witch brought in front of the special court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity. She was found guilty and, on 10 June, became the first person hanged on what was later called Gallows Hill. Another 5 people were sentenced and hanged in July, 5 more in August, and 8 in September. Later, Governor Phips, in response to pleas to stop the madness, as well as his own wife being questioned as a suspected witch, prohibited further arrests and released many accused witches. He dissolved the special court on October 29th, replacing it with a superior court of judicature. By May 1693, Phips had pardoned all those imprisoned on witchcraft charges. But the damage was already done. 19 men and women had been hanged on Gallows Hill. At least 5 of the accused died in jail, and 2 dogs believed to be linked to the devil were also killed. In the years following the trials and executions, some involved, like Judge Samuel Sewall and accuser Ann Putnam, publicly confessed error and guilt. On January 14, 1697, Massachusetts General Court ordered a day of fasting and soul-searching over the tragedy of Salem. In 1702, the court declared the trials unlawful, and in 1711, the colony passed a bull restoring the rights and good names of many of the accused. Even though Abigail Williams accused many victims at the beginning of the trials, especially in March, April, and May, she only testified against 8 of them. Of the people Williams accused and/or testified against, 15 were executed. 1 was tortured to death, and the others either died in jail, were pardoned, were found not guilty, escaped jail, or evaded arrest altogether. Her last testimony being on June 3, 1692. After that date, Williams disappears from the court hearings for reasons unknown. It is possible her uncle, Reverend Samuel Parris, sent her away to prevent her from further participating in the witch trials, just like he sent his daughter away, but there is no evidence for this. Although Betty Parris later married and raised a family in Sudbury, Mass., there are no records indicating what happened to Abigail Williams after the Salem witch trials ended. The book The Salem Witch Trials, a day-by-day chronicle of a community under siege, states that, quote, Abigail Williams, haunted to the end, apparently died before the end of 1697, if not sooner, no older than 17. End quote. But again, there is no proof of this, and this particular claim appears to be a reference to an afflicted girl mentioned in Reverend John Hale's book, A Modest Inquiry into the Nature of Witchcraft. The location of Abigail Williams' grave remains unknown. And with that concludes the last mass psychosis-fueled event to persecute people whom presumably practiced magic and supposedly danced with the devil.